Alright, once again, you're welcome to PJ Collection Clothing, and in this video I'll be showing us how to cut a button down shirt. And the features are, it has a collar, it has also have a sleeve with cuff. So we'll be making a button down shirt with collar, sleeve with cuff. And these are the measurements. The shoulder is 18, the chest is 40, the neck is 16, the sleeve is 27, the round sleeve at the ankle region is 9, then at the bicep, which is the upper part, is 14. Then the shirt length is 35. So these are the measurements I'll be working with. I'll be using 2.5 yards of fabric. Alright, so this is the fabric I'll be using for the cutting. We'll be using this for the cut. Now take note, while cutting our top, you should take note that sometimes the fabric is kind of elastic. So the side that is elastic, you keep it at the width. You keep the elastic side at the width, not at the length. Take note. Alright, so the very first thing we need to do, remember we said we are using 2.5 yard fabric. So the very first thing we need to do, take note, while cutting for a button down shirt, it is different from that of a normal senator, etibo, or good luck. Alright, I'll be using this piece of fabric to show us how you fold for a button down shirt. Remember we said the folding of a button down shirt is different from that of a normal senator. So I'll use this to show us an example of how we fold this. Now the very first thing you need to do, watch, you fold this way, take note, both of them. Now the opening is facing you, unlike a senator that the opening is facing this other part. While cutting for the button down shirt, take note, the opening is facing you. So this is how you fold. Then after this fold, you now fold 2 inch. Take note, you fold 2 inch or 2.5 inch. Take note, the very first thing you fold this into 2. Then you now fold 2 inch. This 2 inch we're folding, take note, if you check our button down shirt, you'll notice that one part goes for the buttonholes and one other part goes for the buttons. Take note. So this 2 inch we're folding this out for our buttonhole and our buttons. Take note. So this is how you do your folding for button down shirt. So having done this, we're now going to our main fabric. So the very first thing I'm doing, just as I've already explained in the piece of paper, so I'm folding. This is the opening facing me. Alright, so I'm folding 2 inch. Take notes. I'm folding out 2 inch down. Alright, you make sure that this is exactly 2 inch. Then you press it down. If you don't want to press it down, it's still fine. Alright, when you're through pressing this down, remember this 2 inch hole. Alright, so the very first thing you need to do, you mark your straight line. Take note. You mark your straight line. Cutting this with that of a senator, they are almost the same step. The only thing is just the folding pattern. Alright, remember this is our neck line. Then the next thing we need to do is to mark our shoulder line. Remember the shoulder, the neck is 16. So from here down, we're marking 2.5 inch. And this is our shoulder line. Take note, this is our shoulder line. Then at the neckline, you're marking 2 inch. Take note. Then you make a curve as shown. Make a curve as shown. Now remember the shoulder. So this is our shoulder line. We said the shoulder is 18. So from this point, now take note. Remember, alright, with me I have an example of a button down shirt. There's something I want to show us here before we go back to the cutting. Now, take note, this part, as you can see, this is the part for the buttons. And this other part is the part for the holes, the button holes, as you can see. Now, take note, there is an overlapping between this other part and this other one. So about 1/2 inch, take note, there is an overlapping of the two. So while cutting this, now take note, we said that from these are shoulder line, and we said that at the shoulder line is 18. 18 divided by 2 gives us 9. So this is 9. Okay. At the shoulder line, we said it's 18. So 18 divided by 2 gives you 9. And I'm adding ½ inch. So you mark there. Alright. Now, the chest. For us to get the chest line, we said the chest is 40. So 40 divided by 4 gives you 10. But we're not using the exact 10. We're using 9. We'll be using 9. But since we have the back to cut, we'll be making use of 7. Take note. The exact figure after dividing 40 is 10. But we're not using the exact 10. We said we're using 9. Remember, we're cutting the front panel alone. So at this point, we're using just 7. Having the back to cut. So I'm marking 7. Take note, 7. Now this is our chest line. Alright, so the chest is 40. So 40 divided by 4 gives us 10. Take note, 10. Now, let me point this clear from what we said. We said that there is an overlapping between the buttonhole part and the button part. So take note. And the overlapping is ½ inch. So I'm adding that ½ inch. Take note. The ½ inch goes for the overlapping. Take note. Then you now have 10½ inch. So at this stage, we'll also add a sewing allowance, which is 1½ inch. So that will arrive at 12 inch. Take note. ½ inch goes for the overlapping, 1½ inch goes for the sewing allowance. Alright. So at this point, we'll now pick up our armhole curve. Then we'll now connect these two. Take note. We connect these two down. Alright. So at this stage, the armhole is ready. So this is our armhole. Alright, the next thing we need to take is the body length or the shirt length. And the shirt length is 35. So this is 35 as you can see. Then I'm adding 1 inch sewing allowance. So alright, so now the stomach is 36. So that is to tell us that the stomach part and the chest part, that is to say that the stomach is flat. So if you want to shape it a little, you can decide to shape it down. Alright, so at this stage we're through with the front panel. So we want to cut the front panel now. Alright, so we're through with the front panel. We now want to cut the back panel. Now take note, the folding of the back is different from that of the front. In terms of folding the back, the opening will be facing this other part as shown, unlike when we're cutting the front, that the opening was facing you direct. So in this case, take note, the opening is facing this other part as shown. Alright, so you fold again into 2, fold the fabric into 2. There are different ways of cutting the back panel, different ways. But I think I'll be using this other method. Very easy and fast. So after folding, you pick up the front and you place it on the folded fabric. Okay. Alright, so the very first thing you need to do, cut off this part as shown. Alright, you take the front panel down by 4 inch. Take note. Take it down by 4 inch. So let's confirm if it is up to 4 inch. Alright. Alright. Now the next thing we need to do is to fold this. And we said, remember in our previous videos, we said, while folding this, it should not exceed ½ inch. Take note, ½ inch. Alright. Then you now use this to trace from here. Take note, while cutting, don't start from here. Take note, not from here. You're starting from this point. Okay, all right. So at this point, remember our shoulder is 18 plus half inch, so you're cutting from this point. Now remember we said the distance from the shoulder down to the chest, as you can see, is 9 inch. That is while cutting the back. So while cutting the front, we use 7, and the back will complement it up to 9 inch. Take note. All right, so okay, so at this stage we are through with our back and our front panel. So having done this, the front panel comes in 2 parts, the left and the right, while the back just one. So the next thing we'll be doing is for us to prepare the components of our button down shirt. Alright, so we now want to prepare the components. So we want to cut our back yoke. So to cut the back yoke, you fold this fabric into 2. Then you pick up this. This is the back. There is no yoke for the front. Take note. Just trace. Alright, so these are back yoke. Now, the next thing we need to do. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is for us to prepare the components. Now, this is the front panel. We have the left and the right part. Alright, so this is the left. I already indicated L, that is the left. And that is the part where you fix your button holes. Take note. So you get this, a paper gum stay, and the width 1 inch. So what you do, you place this as shown, 1 inch. Take note, you're fixing this at the left hand part, the wrong side. This is the wrong side. Take note. You're pressing it down. Pressing this down. All right, so remember this is a 2-inch extra that we added. This is a 2-inch extra, so you're not fixing this at this other part. Take note. All right, you now iron this. Again. One inch down. Right, trying to prepare. Alright, this is the part we'll be fixing our button holes, the left hand. Now, if you're making for a female, you do this at the right hand part. Take note, if you're making a button down shirt for a female, you do this at the right hand part. Take note. Alright, so we'll keep this aside. So alright, so the next thing you need to do, you now sew this from here. You sew from here. Take note. Sew from here. From here. That is the folded part. Take note. The folded part. You're sewing from here at the tip down to the ending. Alright, so keep this aside. Now, the right. Alright, in this case, we are not adding any gum stay. All what you need to do is to fold. We'll just do the folding. This is the part where we'll fix our buttons. Take note. We'll just fold the 2-inch. Right, fold again. Alright. Okay. So after folding, the next thing you do, remember this is the right part, as you can see. I've indicated with an arrow, as you can see there. Now what to do, you now do the folding in as shown. So you now sew at the tip. Yeah, at the tip you sew this down to the end. Now let's come back to this other one. If you don't want this folding to be at the wrong side, you can fold it to this other part as shown, as you can see. Alright, so when you're through cutting the back yoke, you get your cloth gum stay or hair gum, suit gum stay, and you gum as shown. Then when you're through, you fold this other part as shown. So these are back yoke. Now the next thing we need to do, I'll be showing us something here. Now these are back, take note, these are back panel, and this is the wrong side. This is the wrong side. So now watch, if you check some button down shirt, you notice that at the wrong side, that is the inside, there is a kind of a designer's yoke, different from the main fabric. Take note, you notice that there is a colored or a designed yoke inside, which is different from the main fabric. Now this is what we do. You pick up, you fold the fabric into two as shown, then you pick up the fabric that you want to use. I've already done mine, but I just want to show us how it is being done. So you fold it into two, then you now cut. You trace the neck, then you trace the shoulder down to this point as shown. Then the next thing you do, you either fold it round, or you weave round, whichever one. Alright, so now this is the wrong side of our fabric. You now pick up this, take note, and you place it as shown. Take note, place it as shown. Then you now sew this round. You sew this round. You sew this round. Now take note, make sure that the length, the width of this should not be above that of the yoke, because when you sew this round, take note, when you sew this round, the yoke will cover it. So take note, the width here. So if this width is 8 inch, this should be 6.5 inch, as you can see. So this will cover this round. Take note. So now on this yoke, the inner yoke, this is where you're also fixing your label. That is, if you have a label, this is where you're fixing your label. So from this point down, mark at least 4 inch and you sew your label. Take note, you sew it separately first. This is where you're fixing your label. You now sew this round. Then before you now attach this to your main fabric, take note, that is if you want to make use of the inner design yoke and you also want to fix in your label. So let's do this now. Alright, so as you can see, I've done the sewing round. So at this stage, we now want to start the sewing proper. So these are back panel, and these are, here is the front part. I've also done the sewing, as you can see, down. Right, and this is also, okay, this is the left panel, which I've also done the sewing down. Alright, so at this stage, we now want to start the sewing proper. Alright, so we want to start the sewing proper. Now, this is the left and the right panel. Now, before we start the sewing proper, take note. Remember, we said there will be an overlapping between the left and the right, at least ½ inch. So that is what you do. You place it and you make sure it's overlapping. As you can see, it's overlapping. Alright, so you now pin this down. You pin this down. Take note. You pin it down. Okay? Pin this down. Alright, so I've done the pinning down to the ending. Alright, so the next thing we need to do, we want to start the sewing proper. So these are back. So you pick the, So this is the back, the wrong side. Then you pick up the front. So you place the two shoulder region together as shown. Then you pick up this as well as shown. Then you sew ½ inch from this point. You sew ½ inch down to this point. Then you also do the same thing to this other part. The two together, then the shoulder, that of the back yoke together, and you sew ½ inch from here, ½ inch down. So let's do that now. Alright, so I'm through sewing the ½ inch, this point. I'm also through sewing this other part. So the next thing you need to do, you turn this, remember, you turn the yoke. Then you top stitch this shoulder point. Take note, you top stitch this shoulder point. You're sewing at the yoke part and not at the front panel, the yoke. You're top stitching it as shown. Alright, so as you can see, I've done the top stitching, as you can see, both sides. Alright, so the next thing we need to do, remember, this is the yoke. So you take it to the back and you top stitch. It's open, so we're trying to close this down. So you're sewing at the tip. So sew this down as shown. Alright, so at this point we're through fixing our yoke, the back and that of the front. So this is our neck circumference. We'll still work on this neck. We'll still work on it. We're not through. Now, sometimes while sewing, you notice that maybe this, take note, at this point, you'll notice that while sewing, perhaps you'll notice that you arrive at something as shown. Take note. So what you need to do, you need to get your scissors and you trim it neat. You trim it very neat. You can trim off the excess as shown. Trim off the excess. Take note. Alright, you also trim off all the edges to make sure that both the front and the back are equal. Alright, so at this stage, we now want to fix our collar, and we also want to fix our sleeve. Take note, at this stage, we want to fix our collar and our sleeve. Now, remember we said that the front panel is always deeper than the back panel. Take note. To avoid rumpling. Okay, we also do this to this other part. Okay, you put a notch, and you also put a notch here. Alright, so now so the next thing we need to do, you measure the armhole. This is 11.5 inch, as you can see, 11.5 inch. Alright, so in this video I'll be showing us how to cut our sleeve, and we are cutting for a long sleeve. Take note, so the sleeve is 27. The round sleeve is 9, which is this part, and the upper part is 14. So we'll be using this fabric to cut our sleeve. So the very first thing you need to do, you fold the fabric into 2. And how do you know that the folding is okay? Remember when we were cutting the top, the chest was 40. So 40 divided by 4 gives us 10. So this folding should be up to 40 and above. So from what I've folded is 11 inch, as you can see, 11 inch. So my folding is perfect. So this is 11 inch. Alright, so now the very first line we need to mark is the outer sleeve. Take what we said that in our sleeve we have the inner sleeve and the outer sleeve, and we said that we have the outer sleeve and the inner sleeve, and the outer sleeve is longer than the inner sleeve with 3 to 5 inch. So the very first line I'm marking here is my outer sleeve. Take note. Now The next line I'll be marking is the inner sleeve, which is 5 inch. Alright, so this is my inner sleeve. Alright, remember this folding was 11 inch. So 11 into 2 gives us 5.5. So that is the middle. 5.5. That is the middle of this folding. So the next thing I'll do is I'll mark from this point down to this point, and also make another line from this point down to this point. Now from the middle of these 2 points, I'm coming up by 1/2 inch. Take note. Then the middle of these two down by 1/2 inch. So the next thing I'll do, I'll connect this. Take note. Passing the middle here, touching this 1/2 inch marked down to this point. So let's do that now. Alright, so we are through with this point. Take note. Now remember the armhole of our top that we are making, the armhole was 11.5 inch. So at this point you now mark middle 11.5 inch. Now remember that while sewing, there are sometimes that you'll be sewing, you'll notice that the sleeve is shorter than the top. So in this case, instead of marking 11.5 inch, I'll be marking 12 inch to avoid the sleeve being shorter than the top. Alright, so at this point, remember we said we're using cuff, and we're using a 3-inch cuff. Now watch. The next thing, I'm through with the armhole region. I'm through. This is the armhole region. Alright, the next thing I'll be taking note is in sleeve length. And remember we are fixing the cuff to the sleeve, and the width of the cuff is 3 inch. Take note, the width is 3 inch. So I'll be subtracting the 3 inch away. The 3 inch goes for the cuff. Take note. If you're using 2 inch, you remove 2 inch. If you're using 4 inch, you remove 4 inch. But we're using 3 inch. Take note, 3 inch. So down. Taking this down. Now the sleeve is 7. The sleeve length is 7 inch. Okay. The sleeve length is 27 inch, and I'm adding 1/2 inch for the cuff, then another 1/2 inch for the sewing the sleeve to the top. Alright, so now the round sleeve we said is, remember the round sleeve at this point is 9 inch, so that will be 4.5. Then I'm adding 1/2 inch for pleats. Then I'm also adding 1 inch for sewing allowance, so I'll arrive at 12. Take note. Alright, now at this point we said it's 14, so this is 14, and I'm adding 1 inch extra for sewing. So I'm connecting this point down to this point. Alright, so I'll be cutting now. Alright, so I now have the left and the right. So now I've already marked the wrong side. So this is the wrong side. So what you need to do, you open it. This is the good side. And now take note, this is the wrong side. So you also open this. Now, the two good sides facing each other. Take note. So you place them together as shown. Alright, now watch. The next thing we need to do, where we're fixing our bracket. So you fold this into 2 equal parts. Take note. Then you also fold again. You also fold again into 2, and you iron this down. Now at this point, you pick up 1, 2. Take note, just the 2 and not the 4. After folding this, you pick up 1, 2. Then you now cutting. You pick up the 2. Then you, from this point, cutting down 5 inch. Take note, the length should be up to 5 inch. Then when you get to this point, you move this way, you divert this way, and you divert this way. So let's do that now. Just the 2. Take note. Alright, so this is where we're fixing our placket. So the next thing we'll do now is for us to fix our placket. Alright, so in the next component of our button down shirt, I'll be showing us how to make the cuff, the collar stand, the collar, and the placket. Now, these are the next components we'll be making. Now take note, the neck is 16, the round sleeve is 9, and the placket is 8. So I'll start with the placket. So for us to make the placket, you get your paper gum stay. This is a paper gum stay, and the width, take note, is 1 inch. The width is 1 inch. Then the length is 8 inch. Take note, the width 1 inch, the length 8 inch. So this goes to our placket. So the next thing you do, you get the fabric that we use. You get the fabric that we use. Alright, so remember, if you take a look at the paper gum stay, the shiny side, as you can see, should face the wrong side of the fabric as shown. Alright, so you press it down. Alright, so when you're through gumming, the next thing you do, you fold these edges as shown. Remember, we're making the placket. Alright, fold this, then you fold again. Alright, then you watch, cut off this part as shown, then you fold. Alright. Remember, we have the left and the right placket. Take note, we have the left and the right placket. Alright, so remember we said we have the left and the right placket. Alright, in this case, watch. Alright, so one goes to the left and the other to the right, so you also fold. Alright, so this is how we prepare our placket. So the next component I'll be making is that of the cuff. Alright, so in the next video I'll be showing us how to make the cuff. We want to make the cuff. Now take note, the round sleeve is 9. Take note, the round sleeve is 9. And we said in our previous video that we said in our previous video that for cuff width, take note, the width of cuff, the width ranges from 2 to 4 inch. Take note, the width ranges from 2 to 4 inch. Then talking about the length, for example, the round sleeve is 9. So if the round sleeve is 9, the cuff length will be 10 inch. Take note, if the round sleeve is 10, the cuff length will be 11 inch. In this case, the round sleeve of this cuff is 9, so we're making 10 inch. So the very first thing you do, you mark the straight line as shown. Alright, remember the round sleeve is 9, so the cuff length will be 10 inch. Okay. Alright, now the width, we are doing a single cuff, so the width is 3 inch. 3 inch. Okay. Alright, so the next thing we'll cut. All right, so when you're through, okay, so we have the left and the right cuff. So the next thing you do, watch. So alright, so the next thing, you get your fabric that you want to use. Remember, this is the wrong side, so you place this. Take note, the shiny side on the fabric as shown, and you press. Alright, so when you're through, you fold this. Fold this. You go to your sewing machine, you top stitch a 1/4 inch from this point down. Then when you're through, you turn it this way. Then you go to your sewing machine. Take note. You go to your sewing machine, you top stitch from here, this way, this way, this way, down. So let's do that now. Alright, so when you're through sewing, as you can see, I've done the sewing round. So when you're through sewing, you cut off the edges as shown. Cut off the edges. Then you turn it. Take note, you turn this in. So we're trying to prepare. Alright, so okay. Alright, so make sure you leave at least a 1/4 inch that you use to attach it to the sleeve. Take note, at least a 1/4 inch as shown. Alright, so our sleeve is ready. We'll do the same for the next. Okay, you turn this in. Right, press it down. Make sure you leave at least a 1/4 inch that you use. Alright, so at this stage we're through with our cuff. So one goes to the left and one goes to the right. Alright, so in the next video I'll be showing us how to prepare the collar stand and the collar. Now take note that the person's neck is 16, so you want to prepare the collar and the collar stand. So the very first thing you need to do, you get your pattern that you want to use. You first of all do your collar and your collar stand. Alright, so you get the pattern that you want to use. The very first thing you need to do, you mark a straight line as shown. Mark a straight line as shown. Alright, it should be up to at least 10 inch. Take note, 10 inch. Then at the point of 7, take note, at the point of 7 you mark. Then from this point you slant at least, take note, from this point marked 7, you slant at least a 1/4 inch up as shown. Alright, now if you look at some collar stand, you notice that at the point there, okay, so at this point you make a curve as shown. Make a curve as shown. Take note, make a curve as shown at this point. Alright, as you can see. Alright, make sure the distance from this point to this point should be up to 1 inch. Take note, the distance from this point. This goes for the overlapping. Take note. Remember, all right, so the next you need to do, take this down. All right, so at this point we are through with our collar stand, and the width should be up to 1.5 inch. As you can see, 1.5 in the width. All right, so at this point we are through with our collar stand. All right, so we're through with our collar stand. The next thing we want to prepare now is that of the collar. So the very first thing you need to do, you also mark a straight line as shown. All right, then from this point, you mark 3 inch. 3 inch, take notes. 3 inch. All right, then remember the width of the collar is 2.5 inch. The width, take note. All right, so take note, we said the width is 2.5 inch, the width of the collar. So at this point, we are through with our collar stand. These are collar stand, and these are collar. So this is the pattern we'll be using in making both the collar and the collar stand. Now, okay, I'm trying to make the pattern that we use for the collar and the collar stand. Okay, so we have our collar and collar stand. Alright, so at this stage we're through with our collar. These are collar stand and these are collar. Alright, so the next thing we need to do, we now want to make, alright, so these are collar and our collar stand. Now take note, we said that the neck is 16. So we now want to get, so you get a strong paper gum stay. You get a strong paper gum stay. Sometimes you can also get a collar gum stay. There's a gum stay that we use for making collar. So you get a collar gum stay or a strong paper gum stay. Then you fold into 2. Take note, you fold into 2 as shown. You fold into 2. Then you get your collar stand pattern. You place this. Remember, we said the neck is 16. Alright, so you fold your collar gum stay or your strong paper gum stay into 2. Then you get your pattern that you want to use. Then you place, remember we said the neck is 16. Remember while we were cutting, we made a point there. So you take your measurement. You take your measurement from this point. Take note, from this point down. So you're marking 8 inch. Take note. You're marking 8 inch from this point. 8 inch, as you can see, 8 inch. All right, now the extra here, this extra goes for your overlapping, where you fix your button to the buttonhole. The extra here is for the overlapping of your button and your button. So you mark this out with your pen. mark this out. Okay, mark this out. Remember, if your neck is 16, the collar stand will be 18. Take note, if the neck is 16, the collar stand will be 18. The extra 2 inch goes for your buttonhole and buttons. Take note. All right. Okay. All right. So we're through with the collar stand. Now the next thing, you pick up your collar. Take note. And at this point, you start it from this point. Take note where this curve is. Take note from this point. All right. From this point. Okay. Then you mark. We are trying to make. Alright, so we have this. So you have your collar stand and your collar. So you now cut this out. Okay, pick up the two and you make sure you cut it neatly. Alright, so okay, this is the collar stand. Alright, so the next thing you cut the collar as well. You can decide to make this point smaller if you want to. Can decide to make it smaller. Alright, so this, okay. Alright, so at this point, so we are through with. Alright, so at this stage we are through with our two components, the collar stand and that of the collar. So you get your piece of fabric that you want to use. This is the wrong side. Take notes. This is the wrong side. So you place your collar stand. This is the shiny part. You place it on as shown. Then you iron it down. Alright, so when you're through gumming, you fold this edge down. As you can see, fold this part down. Okay, when you're through folding this down, you go to your sewing machine. Then you sew at least a 1/4 inch from this point. Sewing a 1/4 inch. You're sewing the folded edge. Take note, 1/4 inch down to the ending. Alright, so the next is the collar. So you place this as well. Then you press it down. Alright, when you're through pressing down, if you take a look at some collar, you notice that at this edge it is very stiff, like very strong. So what you do, you double it as shown. You get another strong paper gums at this tip here as shown. Then you press it down. You also come to this other part as well. On this, take note, you double fold as shown. Take note, you double fold as shown. Alright, so the next thing we do, we go to our sewing machine. Okay, so the next thing we do, you go to our sewing machine, you sew from this point. Take note, you're sewing from this point down to this point. So we'll do that now. Alright, so as you can see, I'm through with the sewing. So what to do next, you cut this part as shown. Alright, so you turn this in, turn this in. Turn this in. Alright, so I'm through with the turning. So what to do next, you press it down to be neat as shown. Our collar is almost ready. As you can see, it's almost ready. Alright, so the next thing you do top stitching from this point at least a 1/4 inch away from this folded top stitch. A 1/4 inch this point from here down to this point. So let's do that now. Alright, so I'm through with the sewing. As you can see, the next thing, you put these two together as shown. Take note, the two edges together as shown. Then you make a notch. You put a notch. Alright, then you pick up your collar stand as well, making sure that these 2 points are equal. Take note that these 2 points, they are also equal. Then you put a notch as well as shown. Alright, so the next thing you do, you get a piece of fabric as shown, as long down to 26 inch. Then you also put a notch. Take notes, you make a notch as shown. Alright, so the next thing, you place this. Take notes, you place this 1. Then you get your collar. Make sure that the notch of the collar is in line with the notch of the piece of fabric as shown. 2. Okay, then the next you pick is the collar stand. The collar stand, making sure that the notch, and remember this is the good side, making sure that the notch of the 3. Okay, alright. Alright, make sure that the 3 notch are in line. Alright, so what you now do, you come to this point. Take note, you now start from this point where, start from here, you sew from here, passing here, you sew down, you sew down to this point, curve it to this point. So let's do that now. Alright, so when you're through sewing, you cut off this point as shown. Alright, so when you're through, you turn this. Alright, you turn this to the good side. As you can see, our collar is almost ready. So you cut off the excess at least a 1/4 inch, and that is what you use to sew. So at this point, as you can see, our collar is almost ready. Alright, so the next thing we'll do, we'll be fixing this. So also take note, we put this together, place this together. As you can see, this point should be equal. Then you put a notch at this point. Take note, you put a notch. Alright, so at this stage we're through with our collar. So the next thing we'll be fixing Alright, so in this video I'll be showing us how to fix our placket to the sleeve. We have the left and the right placket. Now take a look at our sleeve. Now the sleeve, I said it has the right and the left sleeve. Now this is our right sleeve and this is our left sleeve. Now how do you know? If you keep these two together, remember these are the good side. If you take note, this opening is facing the right while this other one is facing your left. So this is your left sleeve and this is your right sleeve. So we now go to our sewing machine. Very first thing we need to do, we want to start with the right. Now this is the good side of the fabric. This is the good side. So now go to your sewing machine. Now the smaller part of the opening, take the smaller part, as you can see, you fold 1, 2, and you now sew from this point. You sew from this point down to the ending. Alright, then you now pick up this other placket. You pick up this other placket. Now one goes to the left and one goes to the right. You now pick up this other placket, take it to the back. From the back, take note, from the back, you now sew a 1/4 inch. When you're through, you now turn it to the front and you now top stitch. You top stitch from this point, sew from this point, from that point down to this point. You come over this way and you cross this point, you make an X. So we'll do that now. Alright, so in this video I'll be showing us how to fix our placket. Now this is the good side, and we are fixing it to the left. So the very first thing you need to do, remember the bigger part and the smaller part, you're folding just the smaller part into one, fold again, 2, and you top stitch as shown. One to top stitch as shown. Okay, we are through with that part. Now you pick up the placket. We are through with this other part. We are through. So now you pick up this other placket. You sew from the wrong side. Take note. Turn it to the wrong side and you place this as shown. You place this as shown and you sew. Okay, when you're through, you turn it to the good side. Turn it to the good side. You turn it to the good side. Then you top stitch. You close it as shown. Then you top stitch. Trying to fix our plackets. Now, when you get to the point where the opening is, at the 5-inch mark, you stop. You stop at that point, then you sew as shown. Then you cross it as shown. Okay. Alright, so this is how you fix our placket. So you do the same thing for the other sleeve. So at this point we're through fixing our placket. Okay, so at this point I'll be showing us how to fix our sleeve to the top. Now take note, these are left sleeve. We have the left and the right. But before you fix the sleeve, this is different from that of our native top. Remember, we're not weaving. So what you do first, this is a good side. Take note, this is a good side. And now let's move over to the armhole region. So what you do, you fold. Take note, you fold at least a 1/4 inch and you sew round as shown. You fold at least a 1/4 inch. Then you're folding it to the good side. Take note, you're folding it to the good side. Then you sew down. Okay, when you're through folding, remember this folding, you're doing it to the good side. Take note, you're doing it to the good side, this folding as shown. So at this point, you now pick up the left part and you want to join. Take note, the left part. Now in fixing our sleeve, unlike the native, now take note that this is the wrong side. Sorry, this is the good side. So what to do next, you place, remember it has a notch. The middle, that is the notch of this should be in line with the notch of your top. So you place it. And take note, it should exceed, they shouldn't be equal. Take note, unlike your native, both should not be equal as you can see. Both should not be equal as you can see. Both should not be equal. At least the sleeve should be a bit wider as you can see. I'm expanding the sleeve. I'll show us the reason why. So you sew this down. So be sewing this down to the ending. Alright, so we're trying to fix our sleeve. Remember we said, as you can see, that the sleeve, this is the sleeve, is longer than, alright, we're trying to fix our sleeve. Okay, we're through fixing our sleeve. So the next thing we do, we now top stitch. Take note, we top stitch. Now look, this is the wrong side. As you can see, this is the wrong side. Now the excess, that, remember I said the sleeve will be more than the armhole, the top itself. So the excess, this is the excess. As you can, this is the excess. This is the excess. So what you do, you take it to, you now top stitch again, you bend this. Take note, you're bending it to the part of, this is the part, this is the sleeve part, and this is the top part. So this excess here, as you can see, this excess here, you're taking it to the part of the top. Then you now top stitch at the good side. Remember, you're taking this to the, not this, not your left, but your right. Then you now top stitch that down. So while doing that, you can see that is okay. Okay, we're through with that point. So you come over to this other part and you do the same thing as shown. This other part, now this other part, take note, this is the sleeve part and this is the top part. So this, you're bending this, take note, this stuff, you're taking it to the top part and you top stitch as shown. Top stitch as shown down to the ending. Okay, so at this point we're through fixing our left and our right sleeve. The essence of we doing this so that the rough edges should not show. So we're through fixing our right and our left sleeve. Okay. Alright, so the next thing we want to do, we want to start the closing now. Now also take note that in closing, in sewing or the joining, we want to start the joining. Okay, so in this video I'll be showing us how to fix our sleeve. How to fix the cuff to the sleeve. So we're fixing the cuff to the sleeve. So the very first thing you need to do when fixing a double cuff, you start from the outside, but when fixing a single cuff, take note, you're starting from the inside. So you place this from the inside, making sure that the edges of the cuff and the sleeve are equal. So you sew and you sew down to, let's say, 5 inch. So we'll do that now. You watch while you take note. This is the inside, this is the wrong side you're sewing, the wrong side, so your cuff will be inside. Okay, you'll not get to the ending, take note, you won't get to the ending, you stop at that point, then you come over this way. You come over this way and you start from here, making sure that both edges are equal as shown. Then you start. Remember, we said while cutting the sleeve, the round sleeve was 9 inch. Then we added ½ inch for pleating. We said ½ inch goes for pleating. So while so you'll notice that, as you can see, this is the ½ inch that is left for the pleating. Alright, remember we said while we were cutting, the full round sleeve was, the wrist was 9 inch, so you added ½ inch for pleating, then 1 inch goes for the so this is the extra that we kept for pleating. Take note, so you fold it, make sure the distance from your placket down to the folding should be at least ½ inch. Take note, so you're sewing it down, stop there. Okay, then when you're through, the next thing you do, okay, now turn it to the front. Take note, remember we are sewing it from the back, so you take it to the front, making sure that both edges are neat. Now close it, close this point down, then you now top stitch. Remember it's open, so we are trying to close it down, so you now top stitch. Okay, you sew. Then when you get to this point, you take this down, okay, then you sew this, then you sew this, then you take this down. Alright, so we're almost through. So this is how to fix your sleeve. So as you can see, the sleeve is ready. So as you can see, the sleeve is ready. So at this point, you get your buttonhole machine, then you make a buttonhole at this point. Take note, you're making a buttonhole at this point. Then this other part goes for the button. You're also making another buttonhole at this point, and you fix your button at this other part. So this is how to fix your cuff to your sleeve. So as you can see, we're through with this. As you can see, we're through with this. So it goes this way. Alright, so the next thing will be fixing our collar. So the next video I'll be showing us is fixing of the collar. Alright, so in the next video I'll be showing us how to fix our collar. We'll be fixing our collar. So what to now do, remember that our neck region is not big enough to contain the collar. So what to do, remember there was a notch here. Take note, as you can see there's a notch here. So now this is the half point here. Okay, this is the half point from here to this distance. So now you close, you take note, the two flap where the button, this is a buttonhole part and that of the button part. You put them together, as you can see, making sure that they are equal. Take note. Then, as you can see, now this point should go to where the notch is, while taking this one to check if it is. Alright, so making sure that this point, take note that this point, make sure that these two edges are equal. Then you hold it this way, as you can see. This point here should come to this point of the notch. Then you take this. If you take a look, you notice that the top is not at the point of where the distance. That is to say that the neck is still small. So you cut it again. You need to be very careful. Take note, cut it a little. Okay, and you check it again to check if, okay, at this point you still notice that, look at where it is, you still notice that it is not up to this point. We are trying to make sure that it gets to this point. Alright, so you still cut it again, and please, you need to cut it very small. You need to be very, very careful. We're trying, okay. Okay, so now let's check again to see, make sure the two are equal. Then this other point, so let's see. All right, so as you can see from this point down, as you can see, is up to, is balancing up, so it is now equal. Remember the neck circumference is 16, so at this point it's up to 16. Take note, you don't drag it, you don't. Okay, still not. So let's still adjust it a little. Trying to adjust. Okay. Alright, so I want to check. Alright, so okay, is corresponding. So at this stage we can now fix our collar. So okay, so at this stage I'll be fixing the collar. So first we start from this point. Remember this is a good side. Remember this is a good side. Take note. So you're starting from the top here, placing this, making sure that these two edges are equal. So you sew a little. Make sure that the two edges are equal. Remember, you're sewing from the good side. Okay. Remember, you're sewing from the good side. Take note. You're sewing just the ½ inch, the ¼ inch down. Okay, you sew and stop at this point. You sew and you stop at this point. Take note. Like this, will not turn this in. You turn this in. Alright, then you come over this way. You continue from this point as well. When you're through with that point, you remember you sew and stop halfway. Then you move over this way, making sure that these two edges are equal, as you can see. Then you sew. Okay, remember we're trying to fix the collar. You sew and get to the ending point where to meet up with the other part. You try and sew okay. Alright, so when you're through, you bring it, remember it's open, so when you're through, try to cover it as shown. Cover it. Okay, you try to cover it as shown. Then you now top stitch. Now top stitch. Now remember this is the inside. Remember this is the inside. It is at this point that you now put your sizes, maybe XL, L. At this point you fix it. Let's say for example now, let me get a piece of, for example, remember if you check some English button down shirt, you will notice the rows XLX is at this point. At the middle here you fix it there and you sew at this point here, so you sew it down. Okay, sew it down to the ending. Okay, when you get to the ending, you're through with the collar is frame. So that is how you fix your collar. As you can see, right. So you can see our collar. That is how you fix your collar for your button down shirts. Okay, so the next thing we'll be doing is to sew the down parts. Take note, the down parts.